Welcome back to another episode of PrakPlays. Today we're continuing our 29 Let's Go campaign from TooFatLardies. We apologize for the delay. The holidays were in full swing, and we even managed to get some of the group in town for an in-person game. But we're back now and ready to continue. In our last video, the Americans managed to capture the village of Arthenay, on their way to their ultimate objective, the bridge at Insigny. In the fight, however, some off-map German martyrs picked off any American tank that entered the open.
American intelligence has now identified the position of the martyrs at Germain-Du-Pert, a village just south of Arthenay. So, to continue their advance towards Insigny, the Americans must first secure their flank and neutralize the martyrs by capturing Saint-Germain.
So far, our campaign has allowed the Americans to replace their losses between battles, while the Germans have been stuck with a single platoon. This has led to bold American strategies, like charging across fields under machine gun and artillery fire, as the Americans can afford to take the losses. It has also caused our German players to be overly cautious, hoping to preserve their troops for the right moment in the campaign to make a stand.
The Germans must, however, take a stand at some point if they want to win the campaign. Remember, the German goal is to stop the Americans at least a few times to allow more of their division to escape across the bridge at Insigny. And this scenario may provide our German players the perfect opportunity to take a stand.
This is because, unbeknownst to the Americans, the Germans in this scenario will field a fresh platoon. So while the Americans may believe they are about to fight the same platoon from their previous scenarios, which has already taken some casualties and proven to be pretty cautious, they're actually running into a fresh platoon supported by armored vehicles. So, if the Americans stick to their bold strategy, they may be doomed to defeat here at Saint-Germain.
The American position is made even more difficult examining the ground around the village. Surrounded by open fields, there is simply no good way to assault the village without exposing the Americans to fire. Nonetheless, confident from their previous victories, the Americans begin their attack.
The Germans begin by deploying in the village, occupying the church, some houses, and the courtyards. They keep their martyrs in reserve and out of sight for the moment, letting the Americans take the initiative.
On the other hand, the Americans deploy some men in the hedgerows around the bottom edge of the table. Their armor is forced to enter along the road with no cover in sight.
But the Americans make the best out of a bad situation and use the rules to their advantage. A single flamethrower unit makes its way undetected along the hedge leading to the church. The unit then crosses the road under the protection of smoke rounds from a mortar. The Americans then use a chain of command dice to move up one of their jump-off points very close to the church. This means the Americans can now deploy units almost directly into the town without the need to cross the open fields.
Things continue to improve for the Americans as their armor trundles towards the town. Deploying a squad near the church, the Americans implement a combined arms assault when one of their Shermans knocks down the perimeter wall of the church and begins to spray machine gun fire into the building. The flamethrower team then rushes forward and fills the church with fire, while an American squad charges the building. In a moment, the German squad inside the church is destroyed. With minimum casualties, the Americans have secured the church and its courtyard, a significant portion of the village.
But the Germans haven't sat by idly. During this time, their martyrs and an anti-tank team have moved around the perimeter of the town. Rounding the corner, one martyr fires at a Sherman, but misses. A lucky break for the Americans. But amazingly, nearly at its maximum range, a German anti-tank team with a Panzerschreck aims and fires at the Sherman. The tank bursts into flames.
The battle quickly erupts as Americans and Germans fire across the fields. The Americans first eliminate the Panzerschreck team, and American mortars cause casualties among the Germans holding the town. At the same time, the German armor rakes the hedgerows with high explosive shells and machine gun fire.
To break the deadlock, the Americans again turn to their flamethrower team, which creeps along the church's walls toward the next house holding a German squad. The team manages to clear half the German squad from the house, but the remaining Germans return fire and eliminate the flamethrower.
The Americans then attempt to deploy their last tank to counter the martyrs, but it's a 2-on-1 fight. To make matters worse, the Sherman misses its first shot. The martyrs quickly return fire and destroy the Sherman's main gun, causing the tank to quickly reverse behind cover.
The Americans are running out of options. To take the town, they must eliminate the martyrs, but their only ranged anti-tank option remaining is a bazooka team. The team manages to fire one round, which also misses. The martyrs shoot back, eliminating the team. With no ranged weapons remaining, the Americans decide to try to get in close with sticky bombs to destroy the tanks. One squad makes its way around the church while another advances across the open field to reach the town, and both squads take casualties.
But the Germans are quick to react to the American movement. The martyrs redeploy and begin peppering the American squads with machine gun fire and high explosive rounds. As the fighting continues, both sides' morale drops critically low. The Americans finally realize they can't stop the tanks without more firepower and decide to retreat before taking more casualties.
The fight has been quick but bloody. The Americans lost 2 tanks and about 25% of their infantry. The German armor is intact, but nearly 50% of their second platoon are casualties. Because the Germans get no replacements, this high casualty rate may prove detrimental when the Americans return for a second chance at Saint-Germain.
With the Americans' retreat, the campaign switches gears. American morale drops for the first time, but it is not critical yet. Likewise, German morale increases. So the initiative now switches to the Germans, meaning they may decide whether to stay and defend at Saint-Germain or go on the offensive and attack.
With high casualties in their second platoon, the Germans think that defending Saint-Germain once again may prove difficult. So in true German fashion, they decide to counterattack by sending their first platoon to retake Arthenay. Even if unsuccessful, this should buy their division more time to escape at Insigny. So join us next time to see if the Germans can retake Arthenay.